Thank you, Vance. Hello, and welcome again to SEDA Workshop 3. Thank you all for being here this evening. It is a lovely venue. We do want to thank Simonian Farms for accommodating us here. So tonight we have a pretty simple program. As our third workshop, our goal for this workshop is to confirm with you that we've heard you, that we've heard your concerns from the first two workshops. That's the purpose tonight. And so we just have a couple of things scheduled. We're going to hear a presentation from our director, Jennifer Clark, and then we do have our 4 stations where you can follow up with any questions, and staff will be at each of those stations. So I do want to note there are lots of city staff here. So city staff, please raise your hand, just so that you know we're all here and available to answer questions. We also have Bernard Jimenez from the county who's here, and he's taking a call, but he is here from the county, and Fresno County is our partner in this planning process. So with last little bit of logistics, we do ask that you hold your questions until the end of the presentation, and we would direct you again to the open house and we can talk to you about any further questions you have. Also, there are comment cards on your tables, so we are tabulating all of your comments at the end of each meeting. And tonight, we also have a survey that's available for you to fill out that is more detailed than the comment cards. And if you wanted to do the survey while you're here, there's a station inside the barn. So if you didn't want to, there's a QR, you can just, oh no, this isn't that. But there is a card with a QR card. You could do it on your own time. So with that, I will turn over the presentation to Jennifer Clark, Fresno Planning Director. Jennifer?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, everyone. Again, thank you, Sophia, for making all of these workshops a reality. And I have to thank my staff for the enormous amount of time that they have spent on this project and on these meetings. Again, my name is Jennifer Clark. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for the City of Fresno. And tonight, I'm going to walk you through a presentation. And we wanted to make sure that we had thoroughly documented everyone's comments. And so I want to take time to go through all of the issues and concerns that we have heard. As Sophia mentioned, the workshop tonight will consist of this presentation, followed by an open house where you can ask subject matter experts any questions that you may have or provide any additional comments. This is the third and final workshop for the Southeast Development Area Specific Plan, better known as SEDA. How many of you attended one or more of the previous workshops? Can you raise your hand? That is awesome. I love to see repeat folks. So again, tonight I will provide a brief recap of the background of SEDA, why we are updating the plan, but most of the presentation will be focused on what we have heard at those 2 previous workshops and how the existing policies address those concerns. And then I'll finish by recapping next steps in the planning process and how you can continue to engage and comment on the plan. So, before we get started, let's review how we got here in the first place. So the plan area for the Southeast Development Area, otherwise known as SEDA, can be seen here. It's the easternmost portion of the city's sphere of influence, which is the identified boundaries and service area of the city. So let's see, will my pointer work? No. The plan area was considered for incorporation into the sphere of influence in 2002 and was actually incorporated into the sphere in 2006. Before the initial planning process began. Requirements for the eventual development of SEDA included the need to complete a specific plan for the plan area and required environmental assessment of the plan. As many of you know, this process started in 2006 and was put on hold in 2008 due to the recession. At that time, the city decided to embark on a new general plan that would contemplate how the city would grow over the next several decades. SEDA and the need for a specific plan are identified in the general plan that was adopted in 2014. The general plan identified the need for the specific plan to plan for orderly development of this growth area. The general plan makes it clear that the specific plan is needed to establish the scale and intensity required to support the vision of the plan area and the associated financing requirements. The general plan identified priority areas that would be the primary focus for the city within the city limits as of 2012. And this map shows those primary or priority areas where incentives would be established to stimulate development. But the general plan also identified areas where the city would grow to achieve its full build-out. These are known as growth areas and are identified in this map. As you can see, SEDA, as well as parts of West Fresno, are identified in Growth Area 2. It should be noted that most of the areas identified as Growth Area 1, which are in pink on this map, have recently been completed or are near completed in either specific plans or in actual development. The Southwest and West area, Southwest specific plan in Southwest Fresno has been completed, and the West area west of 99 in the pink is also underway and will be completed this summer. So this gets us to the why now question. So why now? To plan for the full build-out of the city, a plan must be created to ensure that the development happens in an orderly fashion and considers all the needs that will be required to complete neighborhoods and not a patchwork with incomplete areas in between. The city, unlike most other cities, is in a housing crisis. Not unlike most other cities, is in a housing crisis and needs to plan accordingly to ensure the crisis is addressed and the city is in a position in the future to respond to the ever-changing market. As mentioned in the previous slides, the specific plan and associated environmental assessment were included in the general plan and are anticipated being completed to address the housing and growth needs of the city. So with that summary, I think it's important that we talk about and review what we heard in the previous workshops. And as Sophia said, there will be an opportunity at the end of the presentation to visit the workshop stations again and to provide additional comment or ask questions. So the objectives of the outreach are of this particular outreach process was to reintroduce the specific plan, why it's being started again, and to get an understanding of the plan area today and what the challenges are, and listen to the existing community and your concerns. And throughout this listening process, we want to make sure that we confirm with you what we heard and to let you know how we will use that information and how to stay engaged. Over the last two workshops, we have heard from over 150 participants. Not all participants have filled out comment cards, but those that did showed us that there was a large and broad representation of residents, businesses, and property owners. Additionally, you may have noticed that staff took several notes during the activities to get a full understanding of the concerns and what needed to be further addressed and modified in the specific plan. The responses in the comment cards varied, but approximately 1/5 of them indicated opposition to the plan. Although not everyone completed a comment card, we heard those in opposition loud and clear. Many workshop attendees are concerned with how implementation would impact those who already live here. There was also a specific group of workshop attendees who expressed opposition to the specific plan in general. This desire is for the plan area to remain in its current state. And it was stated by several attendees that such disagreement with the plan has existed from its inception. The City of Fresno, because of that, has decided to hold an additional listening session to catalog all the views of those who are opposed to the SEDA-specific plan or who have very specific concerns. This listening session will be held in 2 weeks on June 14th at Sequoia Elementary School, and I will cover this again when we get to the next steps page. So at this point, I'm going to go over and review all 4 of the main topic areas and identify existing policies that are currently in the plan that address potentially those concerns that have been raised. And I want to point out that the policies listed do not completely address all of the concerns. And in the coming months, staff will use what we have heard to modify and add policies to further address concerns. If you have any questions throughout this portion of the presentation, please write them down on the comment card, and the subject matter experts can help answer them during the open house portion of the workshop tonight. So, land use, housing, and parks. The areas of concern are concern of landscape changing from country to city, concern over country landscape becoming suburban or urban uses, concern over the potential loss of wildlife, concern over a potential loss of tight-knit community feel, and concern over the loss of farmland. Currently in the plan, there are a number of policies that are intended to address these concerns. But again, we'd like your feedback tonight in the comment card or in the workshop or in the open house portion of the workshop. So some of the policies that currently exist in the plan include policy CF 1.3, which is conversion of farmland to non-agricultural uses, policy employment in open spaces 4.4, and policy open space 5.2 habitat corridors. These look at to address certain concerns, ensuring that strategic farmland is considered as the plan area develops, establishing an open space network that includes components of the historic agricultural routes while also looking to provide employment opportunities, and making sure that the existing wildlife is planned for in new development and that the open space is available in the plan area. Additional policies to address concerns include Open Space 2.2, passive open space, rural cluster districts, agricultural farm buffers, and small farms and community farming. These address creating open space that complements the natural habitat, establishing land use and associated development standards that concentrate housing in the town centers and transitions to lower densities farther away, and the creation of an agricultural buffer on the eastern boundary to ensure there are opportunities for continued agricultural development in the plan area. Additionally, some of the concerns that do not have direct policies to address concerns are not everyone wants to see development, not everyone wants to remain rural. There is a concern about the rural to urban transition and how that will occur, and a concern over industrial concentration. Policies that may address these concerns include collaboration with San Joaquin Valley Clean, it's not the right acronym, but San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District, conversion of non-urban uses, and agricultural farm buffer. So these would make sure that the city works with appropriate partners to limit the impacts of new development through clean energy projects and limiting the conversion of culturally significant land and through the creation of an agricultural buffer. Sorry, got behind on my slides. Additionally, promotion of the concentration of jobs that complement the strengths of Fresno and specifically the plan area. And for the plan area to grow and consider all that was mentioned is to make sure it is phased appropriately. And this will be done through the creation of a detailed phasing plan that considers all components and a need for holistic development. Moving on to the water, sewer, and storm drain section of the plan. We heard two primary concerns related to groundwater. The first is a concern over future groundwater levels and a concern over where water will come from when development does occur. Policies currently drafted in the plan include ensuring that as much surface water as possible is used per the state's mandate to utilize surface water first. The infrastructure assessment will address this as well as the exact or the anticipated groundwater demands and establish the best path forward. And additionally, replacement of extracted groundwater through statewide and regional policies to ensure that we are recharging the groundwater as it is extracted. Additionally, the plan area will require the use of several sources of water, including water recycling, and the infrastructure assessment to detail how water supply and delivery will be provided to the plan area. Additional concerns raised were over future water contamination, concern over whether existing residents and businesses would need to tap into city water once it's built, concern over being forced to tap into city water and forced to pay for it, and concern over flood zones and stormwater runoff, and concern over adding a sewer plant and where it could be located. Current policies in resource conservation look at shared resources and infrastructure, as well as energy planning to address a unified look through the Clean Energy Organization, PG&E, as well as our Kings River Basin Water Authority. Transportation and trails. The concerns heard here in transportation include roads should be completely developed at once instead of over time. Many roads exist. They're currently in disrepair or not fully built out. Concern over traffic congestion, current and the policies that look to address some of these concerns include policies that ensure that development is planned with all infrastructure. This includes ensuring that the streets are built for all users and completed as the plan area develops, establishing land uses and associate development standards that would allow for residents to live near where they will work and have the ability to get there by other means than automobile, either walking or taking the bus. These are included in land use strategies, co-location of services and employment, and transportation facilities strategies. Additionally, some of the concerns raised included safe streets, so ensuring that we have streets built to ensure the safety of all users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, drivers, and those riding transit, and an implementation policy specifically related to infrastructure study to ensure that all infrastructure is identified. Sorry, it keeps cutting out. And the financing mechanisms to support that infrastructure are identified before the plan is built. Trails concerns. These are the concerns that were identified specifically related to trails. Trails should be designed for pedestrian and bicycle safety. Trails should be designed with privacy and security in mind for adjacent property owners. Canals adjacent to property lines often go to the center of canal-adjacent property lines often go to the center of canals, and there is a concern specifically over the property rights adjacent to the canals. Concerns about encampments along the trails, and several participants voiced concerns about not wanting trails at all. Here are some of the policies that are in the plan currently, including transportation facilities strategies and regional trails, building the streets to allow for all types of use, and streets that are well connected to allow for co-invented and safe travel, creating a trail system that complements the natural landscape and can be used for all people in the planned area, even if you ride horses. So it's important to note that where appropriate, equestrian trails would be provided. Additionally, policies that address concerns include the performance standards and evaluation of our system. So this would include bicycles and pedestrians. A network that is created will need to provide options for all users, and the networks for those that will walk and ride their bicycles will need to include the appropriate facilities and plan to be built as the area grows. So the last area of where we heard concerns from participants and questions is implementation, phasing, and annexation. Concerns identified are that the city should require a higher percentage of infill development to be completed prior to annexing any further. Some residents expressed the desire not to be annexed ever. Concern over the annexation process, whether individual residents will have a say in that annexation process. Considering phasing west to east rather than in the phasing, draft phasing that we presented, and trails phased in as more density occurs. So what are some of the policies that are in the draft plan now? First is concentrated in office employment and focused activity in the community centers. Annexation procedures for proactive annexation for groups of parcels may be necessary in order to facilitate orderly development. However, the city will need to identify and develop a specific program to implement this phasing, and a specific phasing plan anticipated in 5-year areas up to 20 years of build out. So the policies specifically are establishing land uses and development standards that concentrate housing in town centers and transition to lower densities further away. Creation of detailed policies and procedures for orderly development that do not create gaps in infrastructure. And for the planned area to grow, it is important that it's phased appropriately. And this will be done through the creation of a detailed phasing plan that considers all components and a need for holistic development. So what are our next steps? The next steps in the process for the city will be to complete the specific plan and release it for public review. So all of these policies that are in draft form right now will continue to modify as we receive feedback, and we will put this out for public comment. We will also need to complete our environmental impact report and through the approval process. So as you can see, or maybe like me, cannot see on the slide, the public workshops will, when they're concluded, we'll continue to revise. We anticipate releasing the plan, draft plan, in late summer of 2022 this year. EIR, the Environmental Impact Report, late summer, early fall. And then Planning Commission and public hearings in the winter of 2022, along with City Council public hearings. And then plan implementation could begin with additional studies and design as early as 2023, knowing that it takes a significant amount of time to complete and build infrastructure. I wouldn't anticipate a lot of development occurring prior to the Clovis Unified School District going into the Bradley Center in the summer of 2024. So as I stated earlier, we want to ensure that those who feel like this is a one and done or a done deal, that there is additional opportunity to express opposition and concerns. We will be holding an additional listening session on June 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Sequoia Elementary School, where we held our last workshop. There's information here on how to register. There's also postcards at the tables so that you can take that with you and you can register online. And I'd just like to, again, thank our team for working hard on this project. Your primary contact information at the city are Sophia, Drew, and Sean, and their emails are listed here. However, our workshop is not over. The open house stations will be available until 8 o'clock tonight, and we'd like for you to take time to revisit the workshop stations, which have those policies printed, and to provide us feedback and continue to engage on how to make these policies better. So again, thank you very much. Sophia, do you have any more directions? No, she's good. So make sure to get something else to eat and take your time at the stations. And again, thank you all so much for coming tonight.